In this, the second part of our lessons on the literary essay, I shall discuss an approach to writing the essay itself. Now, firstly, just a reminder that a literary essay, or a literature essay, if you like, is a formal piece of writing. Never forget that. It's formal, in which you critically examine a theoretical statement about a work of literature and then eventually arrive at some kind of conclusion. So, while your opinions are important, they must be supported by references to the set work that you are exploring. It is not a creative piece of writing. It's very important to understand that the topic is essential. The literature essay topic will focus on key issues in the text. It's going to be about the text itself. Now, the text will normally have several key issues, several themes, etc. But the topic will direct you in a certain way. It will tell you which of these themes, of which of these characters or issues you should focus on in that specific topic. So it is going to demand an extensive knowledge, a very good knowledge of all the characters and all the themes. So in other words, you cannot really expect to write a literary essay if you don't fully understand the set work involved. Now, firstly, it is important to always start with a first draft. Now, your first draft for an assignment will be different from the first draft in the exam. Your exam first draft will just be sketchy, it will be all over the place, it might be a spray diagram, but it will not be a formal essay. However, if you do it for an assignment, please prepare a first draft, a proper one. But in an exam, you have to do everything much faster, right? So, firstly, analyze. That's the first point. You must analyze the topic by highlighting the important words. This is essential. It is really crucial, especially in an exam. Make sure that you focus on that and on nothing else. I'm going to give you an example of a question asked in the DBE November 2015 exam for grade 12. This is the topic. Referring to Cassio, Iago says, "He hath a daily beauty in his life that makes me ugly." Now remember, that is just a quote. It is not saying that this entire essay is now going to be about Iago. It is just something to introduce the actual topic. So now look at the topic and highlight the words. Keeping that in mind, you are going to critically discuss how Othello, that means the entire play of Othello, in other words, not just Iago, demonstrates that when characters feel inferior, there are very often destructive results. Paraphrase it to yourself. Ask, what does it mean? So the two main things here is that in this play, there are some characters that feel inferior, and because of that, there are destructive effects. Those are the two aspects. You're going to have to critically analyze this or critically discuss this in your essay, and that's what you're going to focus on. You're not going to focus on other themes like temptation or other things that you've studied. This is what you're focusing on. So keep that in mind. This is all important, right? All of this. Keep this in mind. Do not give your essay another title. Don't go and be creative in any way here. Don't give it another title. Focus on what you are given, on the key elements that you have now highlighted in this way. Fine, what do you do then? You prepare your first draft. You're going to now focus on the question on the main ideas. And you're going to ask yourself, which characters feel inferior in the play? Make a little list, right? Why are they feeling inferior? What do the characters say to each other that makes you think that they feel inferior? Or what do characters say about others that might make them feel inferior about themselves? So think of these things. How do these characters relate to each other? That should go through your mind very quickly. Think, focus on the aspect of the characters and the inferiority. Ask yourself, who are the characters again? Let me see. For instance, how does Iago feel about spiritual, moral, or emotional beauty? Since they have actually started in your instruction with this quote. So Iago must most certainly be discussed, as well as others. So how does he feel about this emotional beauty, right? That if you compare yourself to it, that you might feel inferior. Why is he jealous? Why is he jealous of Othello? Why is he jealous of Cassio? Aspects. Why is he bitter? Why is he envious? All of these concepts and connotations are important. Why does he lack self-esteem? Can you see that all these things have to do with inferiority? And then you go to other characters and you ask yourself about Othello himself. He also feels inferior. He also lacks confidence. Why is that? And how is that in relation to other characters? Ask these questions. Why is Bianca jealous and Emilia subservient? All of these words, jealous, subservient, lacking confidence, lacking self-esteem, all these things have to do with inferiority. Ask around these characters. So, very importantly, you need to go on to the latter part of the question, which says, how do these feelings, you have now figured out how these characters feel, how do these feelings now create destruction? And what actually happens that gives you the idea that their feelings have given rise to the destruction in the actions. Now, you have done a little flow diagram. You've been very quick, for instance, in an exam, and you've written these things down. Now you gather all of these things together because now you've thought about the topic, and now the one thing that you need to do, even in an exam, is to write out your introduction. Write out the entire introduction, because it's crucial that you have in this introduction your thesis statement. In other words, you must there give the reader the idea of how the essay will develop, but also in your own mind as you carry on, especially in an exam, to constantly remember where I'm going with this argument, right? So then, as far as the body is concerned, you're going to jot down the main points that you will be arguing and any useful quotations. As you're going along, jotting down the main points, try and think of those small quotations that you have memorized before the exam. Remember, that's part of your preparation. So you write them down if you think you might want to use them. Don't go and make a list of all the things you've studied, just the ones that are pertinent to what you're saying. So make sure that each point is relevant. You are not going to impress anybody by making a list of all the themes in the play and give us a nice long explanation of what the play is about. It's not the point. Focus, right? Exclude irrelevant information. Exclude it. It's not there. Don't use it, please. If you don't have small quotations to include, a reference is as good. Refer to a certain incident and what the one person did, how she treated the other, etc. So refer. And if you can, as I say, use brief quotations. When you now get, remember you're still preparing, you're still on the first draft, now you get to the conclusion. Also a good idea to write out your conclusion in full, making sure that you're linking it to your introduction, that you have actually done what you set out to do in your introduction. And now you conclude, you're going to say how all these things that you've jotted down, how all these things prove that your thesis or your idea is indeed correct. You have to there summarize your argument and draw a conclusion. Important not to end with a rhetorical question, right? As I say, it's not a creative essay, but with a strong statement why your argument is true. And then, of course, you have to edit your first draft. Check for the following. We went through this in another lesson. Make sure, did you use present tense? Did you use third person throughout? Are you sure you did not use any I? Okay? Never say in this essay, I will, right? Out. So you approach the text through themes and characters while you are addressing an argument, right? Have you used formal language? Have you argued and not told the story? Don't start in the beginning, because the moment you do that, you're going to lapse into past tense narrative, and that's not what you want. You want present tense argumentation. Make sure that every point is linked to the topic, and that you have supported with references. And when you do your final essay, you write out your introduction first. Remember, we are assuming you're in an exam. Write it out in full and check as you're doing it. Always check while you're writing. Is this a proper thesis statement? All the numbered points that I did in my preparation, did I actually include it? And did I put them together in a proper order? Have I made sure that every point is relevant? Yes. Have I checked for linking adverbs? Have I given a cohesive and a coherent piece of writing with these the adverbs linking all the points? Check for contradictions. Check that you haven't said something there and contradicted yourself in another paragraph. So make sure that your argumentation is sound, right? Have you discussed all the aspects? And then you write out your conclusion, proper conclusion. Again, checking, have I linked it? Have I proved my argument? And then, of course, you edit it carefully for grammar, spelling, and style. Now, you can still make changes in your final essay. Just do it neatly draw a line through the word, rewrite the word, or through a paragraph, rewrite it. It's all fine, even in your final essay in the exam, as long as you do it neatly, right? And you have checked your all your quotations for accuracy. And then you're done, you rule off and hand in.